Renault spent $50 million on the services of Daniel Ricciardo during 2019 and 20. That works out as $1.3 million per race, $289,000 per point, or $25 million per podium finish. By any measure, that's a lot of money for not a lot of results. But the driver is only one part of the competitive equation in Formula 1, so we have to dig a little deeper to understand whether or not Renault really got its money's worth from Ricciardo. The hope was that this 2-year deal would be just the start of a successful alliance between Renault and Ricciardo, laying the foundations for the wins and World Championship glory they would share in the future. The fact they've gone their separate ways, with Ricciardo joining McLaren and Fernando Alonso coming in to replace him at what is now called Alpine, proves that the partnership at least wasn't as successful as it might have been. But that doesn't make it a failure. As team principal Cyril Abiteboul, the man who convinced Ricciardo to turn his back on Red Bull and sign on the dotted line in the middle of 2018, said at the end of last season, he's given Renault a lot. Abiteboul described his driving as remarkable and credited Ricciardo with leading the charge of the team, and as he pointed out, Ricciardo's contribution helped Renault to improve over his 2 seasons there. But of course, Abiteboul would say that, wouldn't he? To say otherwise would call into question his decision to shell out $50 million for Ricciardo in the first place. But we don't have to take his word for it, as the team's progress speaks for itself. While Renault finished 5th in the Constructors' Championship in both seasons, down from 4th in 2018, it was only 21 points behind 3rd in 2020. Last year was also its best in terms of pace since the Works team was revived in 2016. This undeniable improvement suggests the foundations have been laid to continue to improve over the next few years, when Alonso will be in position to benefit. But much of this contribution is intangible, given it is partly reflected in longer-term results we've yet to see, and you could argue it would have happened without Ricciardo there at all. After all, while the driver is the biggest single contributor to performance, they are still only a small part of the equation overall. One way to understand what he's brought is to imagine what might have happened had he not joined Renault in the first place. So where would Renault have been without Ricciardo? Chances are it would have continued to run Nico Hülkenberg and perhaps kept Carlos Sainz alongside him in 2019. If not, Esteban Ocon would maybe have come in a year earlier, an appealing prospect given the national fervour for a French driver. The impact Sainz might have had if he'd remained is difficult to judge, as he reached a higher level when he moved to McLaren. But the bottom line is Hülkenberg was the stronger driver when they were together. As Hülkenberg and Ocon definitively performed at a lower level than Ricciardo in 2019 and 20, it's fair to conclude that the car was being driven a little faster thanks to the money spent on the driver. Ricciardo is seriously quick, and given he's competing in a part of the field where a tenth or two can make a big difference, that has a big impact. Few seriously doubt he would be a serious World Championship contender in the right car. In 2019, he outscored Hülkenberg 54-37 after a shaky start, and in 2020, he was 119 to 62 points up on Ocon. Ricciardo outqualified Ocon 15 times out of 17, with an average advantage of 0.362 seconds. But this also forced Ocon to raise his game to the point where he got closer to Ricciardo as the season progressed. A Hülkenberg-Ocon combination might never have pushed itself on in quite the same way, and the true potential of the car could have been shrouded. As for the results, they were excellent given the competitiveness of the car. Ricciardo scored points in 22 of his 38 races for Renault, as well as being disqualified from 6th place at Suzuka in 2019. And he was the driver who made Renault's podium breakthrough with 3rd place at the Nürburgring last year. Every step of the way, Ricciardo was Renault's spearhead. The team also couldn't doubt the level Ricciardo was operating at, so couldn't fool itself into thinking there was significant untapped potential in the car. That effect should not be underestimated, and neither should the effect of Ricciardo's effervescent presence. He's an energetic and inspiring character, so even when he turned his back on the team by signing for McLaren before the 2020 season had even started, his relationship continued to thrive. Other partnerships might have been broken by that decision, but not this one. His attitude was also crucial during those early races in 2019 when things did not go well. Ricciardo struggled to adapt to a car that was very limited on corner entry and that was not compatible with his style, but his attitude ensured the team wanted him to do well. This might sound obvious, but many an experienced and proven driver has had the opposite effect when they've joined an underachieving team. That's another quality Renault paid for. This helped to create a constructive environment where Ricciardo was able to benchmark the performance of the Renault against his experience of the Red Bull. That kind of knowledge is valuable and can help to ensure the right characteristics are pursued and the correct changes are made. That Renault made a good step from 2019 to 2020 proves this. The car was immediately better in terms of getting the power down at corner exit, but subsequent improvements in terms of rear downforce, upgrade packages further forward on the car that have worked far better than the previous attempts, helped to turn Renault into a genuine all-rounder in the midfield, rather than the peaky performer it was in 2019. Now, the driver does not design or engineer the car, so the primary responsibility for these improvements lies within the walls of Enstone and Viry. But Ricciardo played a key role with his input into this process. His capacity to drag the maximum from the car, positive attitude and accurate feedback, all underpinned by the credibility of his race-winning years with Red Bull, helped to guide this. What's more, he was not afraid to admit when he underperformed. He accepted early in 2019 that he was a little shocked by the challenge of stepping from a front-running car into a midfield one, and recognised that his job was to adapt rather than endlessly blame the machinery. And on the rare occasions he made mistakes or didn't get the maximum out of the car in qualifying, he fronted up. So he helped to make Renault a better team technically during his stints, which should mean it's better equipped for the major rules overhaul in 2022 that will require all new cars. While that means nothing can be carried over, the knowledge underpinning the team's current cars will feed into a machine that it is hoped will launch Alpine towards the front. And without Ricciardo's contribution and performances, could it have signed Fernando Alonso? Possibly not, as while it was the only realistic choice for Alonso's F1 comeback, it's unlikely he would have seen the value in joining a team where it's still performing as it did in 2019. Inconsistent and only really strong on the low downforce tracks. Ricciardo has, in effect, helped to prepare the team to be able to recruit its illustrious replacement. So is all this worth $50 million? Only a Bittable can really answer that. But given Ricciardo played a central role in the team, eliminating the fundamental weaknesses it had, and as Bittable suggested, this also had a role in technical personnel changes that have had some positive effect, with far more upside still to come, he's certainly been worth a lot. There's no doubt Alpine is a better team for the cash it has shelled out on him. Could that have been better spent elsewhere? Possibly, but what's unquestionable is that the Alpine team he leaves behind is far stronger than the Renault one he joined, and could prove to be a real thorn in Ricciardo's side at McLaren in the coming years. But what do you think? Did Renault get its $50 million worth out of Ricciardo, or was it money wasted? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss anything from the race.